Okay, hello and welcome to the Michael Mamas Show. I'm your host, Michael Mamas, coming to you from Mount Soma, USA, home of the Sri Someshwara Temple in the mountains of western North Carolina. Today's title is Ma Durga Rising. Watch for these signs. So many people, I mean, you can just feel a tension in the air, everywhere you look, there's conflict. If politics, interpersonal relationships, the guy down the street, just seems like everybody's on edge. And of course, internationally, and so people are kind of wondering what's going to happen. So we're going to talk about that today. And, we've talked about the phase transition into a golden age and all that. But today I'd like to get on more of a pragmatic level and talk about what things, actual tangible things we can see in the world or we've experienced that I think are good indications that, that the phase transitions are around the corner. Before we do that, though, this time of year is really a busy time of year because, summertime, a lot of people come visit Mount Soma, late spring, summer, and landscaping is going wild. We have so much grass to mow and plants to prune and this and that. And then all the guests, there's a lot to preparing for them and looking after them while they're here. So we have someone that would like to volunteer to come to Mount Soma. They don't have tons of money, and so they said they would like to come, but they couldn't. And so bottom line, if anybody has any miles, like with Delta or whatever, that they'd like to donate so that we can help him get him here, please call the office and let us know, and then we'll get back to you. You can either text us or email us or just reach out to us anyway, and we will get back to you. I guess also while they're here, they're going to need a car, and I guess there's some kind of auto rental points or something like that. I don't even understand all this Axe rewards, whatever that is, Enterprise airline auto rental rewards. I don't know. But anything like that anybody has that they're not going to be using, we'd appreciate it if you'd reach out and let us know. And there might be other people that are in a similar situation that would like to come here for a couple of weeks or longer, whatever, and help out. And you'd be more than welcome to do that. And if you need, some help in making it happen, if we get enough mile credits, we could help you out as well. Okay, so back to Ma Durga Rising. Ma Durga, Durga is a aspect of Mother Divine that oftentimes is depicted as someone very vicious, with weapons and all these arms and all these different weapons and things. But there's also, of course, a loving and compassionate component to Ma Durga. She's the mother, and I've told that story before about when Shiva and Vishnu were fighting, and she took them both by the hands and said, calm down, cool it. And they did. And peace reigned, And so that's the phase transition that we're in now. And all those things I've talked about, how they've been predicted for so many years, thousands of years, 5,000 years ago, to my account, is the earliest time it was predicted for this particular time period. But, it's difficult for us to, I think in a lot of ways, it's hard for us to even accept that. How could that be? Because we look around and things just are getting more and more inflamed. I mean, even politically, the left can't stand the right. The right's angry with the left. They're all mad at each other. Democrats, Republicans, the whole thing. And internationally, you got China's and all those threats, and North Korea, and of course the COVID virus is going crazy in India, and it's like, what in the world is going on? And there's a tension that you can feel. Now we could say, well, wait a minute, what about World War II? Things like that have happened before. And I'm not downplaying that, of course, but if you can take a step back, I think, and just kind of feel into any age, any period of time, any decade, there's a certain tension or tonal quality to this particular one that you can feel it. It's kind of unique, and it is unique. And so let's take a look at why that is. For one thing, I even personally know, just in my own personal life, I know of two technologies that have huge potential to transform the world. But one thing or another, there's just all these obstacles, be they bureaucratic or what have you, and there's absolutely no reason for it. But it's like some kind of shoestring tackle, if not a major obstruction, and they're just not happening. And there are tons of things like that. I've talked about how we're worried about the pollution of the oceans and all the plastic, tons of plastic being dumped in the oceans daily, polluting the oceans. There's a bacteria that's been developed that would go in the ocean, digest those plastics, and when all the plastics are gone, the bacteria would die off because there's nothing else for them to eat. I just found out, this was the day before yesterday. There's I never knew about this. I don't know if it's a new or thing or what, but there's a bacteria that competes with the pathogenic bacteria in a pond. And so you dump this this bacteria in the pond, and it eats up all the food that the pathogenic disease-causing bacteria eats. And so the disease-causing bacteria dies away. And then when there's no more of that stuff to eat, the bacteria you jumped in dies away. That bacteria is not harmless to people, fish, pets, anything. And there's so much like that. Our relationship with viruses and bacteria is just in its infancy. There are good viruses, there's good bacteria, and it's all about a balance. There's a toothpaste. It's called Revitin, and I guess it's Revitin. I don't know, Revitin. But what it does, it doesn't try to kill the bacteria in the mouth. It balances the bacteria, the good bacteria, and even what we would consider maybe the bad bacteria, but it creates a balance. And by virtue of that, tartar doesn't build on the teeth, stains don't accumulate on the teeth. And I'll tell you, I mean, I started using that Revitin, I don't know, I'm guessing about a year ago. All of a sudden, I go to the dentist to get my teeth clean and just tick, tick, tick a little bit like that. Okay, you're done, and then they polish them. Things like that are all over the place. But what we're doing now is we look at the difficulties in the world, and there's a tendency that we have to extrapolate. The sun rises, and so it goes from 50 degrees to 60 degrees, and then a couple hours later, 70 degrees. If we extrapolate, we extend that line, we calculate out that by midnight tonight, we're all going to be dead because that world's going to be on fire. Well, there's all kinds of tensions going on right now during this phase transition. That's what this is a phase transition into a golden age. And you can feel it. There's a uniqueness to those tensions. And we extrapolate. In the way that's going, there's going to be all kinds of crises, But nature doesn't work that way, and particularly now with what the ancient seers have told us, that, yeah, things are going like that, or maybe we should say going like that, but we're at that moment of phase transition. It's going to shift. Now, when you take a ball and you throw it up in the air, at some point it starts coming back down. But there's a moment of transition from when it's going up to when it starts going back down, where it stops. Kind of like for an instant, it's suspended in space. Same thing with a pendulum. When it swings, for a moment, it stops, and then it goes up. And right now, we're at that point of suspension. You can feel it if you just. It's hard to get past our concerns and our worries and our fears and our emotions and our biases and things. But if you can do it, I'm not saying it's easy, but if you can do it, you can feel it. It's like, oh yeah, there's a tension like that right now. It has that unique value to it, and things are going to start shifting. And when they do, like a pendulum or the ball, it starts out slowly, but then it starts moving fast, faster, 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 like that. And so we are moving into that golden age, and there are plenty of signs, like the technologies, the couple that I know about, bacterial technologies, virus technologies, over and above the two that I'm talking about that I'm aware of personally. All that is happening. And see, Mother Nature supports the whole sun rising, sunset cycle. Things don't extrapolate out to infinity, but they return and like that. And there was a time, I will tell you, there was a time, and we're going back maybe 50, 60, 70 years, where it was highly questionable how that phase transition was going to take place, because it can take place comfortably or it can take place catastrophically. And so really, a lot of the work that spiritual groups have done, and a lot of the work that here at Mount Soma we're doing, really the purpose of Mount Soma, you could say, was to help bring about that phase transition, which is inevitable. We're going into a golden age, but to bring it about gradually, not with some big apocalypse, like, for example, the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was right on the edge, wasn't it? And a lot of these different tensions, but we've done, well, I don't even want to say enough, because we could have always done more. And if we did more right now, we would have entered that golden age so smoothly that we wouldn't be feeling this incredible tension in the world, But we did our best, And I think a lot of the obstacle to it, frankly, is paradigm identity. People hear it, and if you're willing to take a step back and look at it and analyze the data and analyze, so many amazing things that I've talked about in previous podcasts, it's like, yeah, this is happening. But we have a hard time doing that. We have a hard time really realizing that there's a whole new paradigm emerging. And as that paradigm emerges, we're going to come into a golden age. The technologies are there. Why don't we really investigate? How in the heck did the Egyptians build the pyramids? How did that guy in, what is it called, the Coral Castle in South Florida, on his own, some little guy in the middle of the night, build these incredible things? And he said he figured out the secret of how the Egyptians built their pyramids. He's got some big, huge, multi-ton boulder, I guess, pivoting on a point. It's like a swinging door. He did it by himself. Huge boulders up on top of walls, And, if you watch that TV series, Ancient Aliens, they talk about these incredible technologies that are there. Temples, we don't know how they build them in India, in Peru, all over the world. To develop those technologies, we need to go through this paradigm shift. And when we do, those technologies that are not really that identifiable, ascertainable from the current approach we have to science, to physics, like that, when we do that shift to a new paradigm of scientific still, but a new paradigm, All those things are going to become available. And we're already, even with our old paradigm, we're on the verge of transforming the world. I had a economics professor when I was in college. He was a great guy. And he said something once that really stuck with me. I think I've said it in a previous podcast, but it's so pertinent here. He said, the economy is so complicated that it's like if you have some big, huge oak tree and it's autumn and the leaves are falling from the tree, trying to predict where the economy is headed is like trying to predict where every single one of those leaves is going to come to rest on the ground. And at the same time, there is a determining factor to that, not ascertainable on the surface of life, but still accessible if we develop a technology that enlivens Ma Durga, enlivens the harmonizing aspect, enlivens the aspect that brings order and coherence that's inherent in the underlying basis of existence, and brings that to the surface. And thereby the winds blow the direction they need to blow. Everything happens the way it needs to happen. So the leaves land on the ground. Our economy lands on its feet, not on its back. That's the technology. That's the technology that we're missing. And that technology, if we can develop that technology, that one technology, then what happens is all these other technologies fall into place. Why? Because we've created the order and the coherence that becomes the source of constructive, life-supporting paradigms, worldviews, actions that bring about a golden age. And that's, as I've talked about, that's what we're doing here at Mount Soma. That's what we're building with the Sri Someshwara Temple. That's what we're doing. But there's so much more we need to build here. That's why I'm saying the technology is there. It's real. It's accounted for. It's proven over and over again. If you just go look at some of these ancient temples, it works. All we want to do is develop it. And there's a technology that was offered to us by Mamuni Mayan. Mamuni Mayan, there's Vishwakarma, he's the cosmic architect. Mamuni Mayan is like the cosmic architect, but specifically not for the whole universe, but for Earth. And Mamuni Mayan, in his writings, in his cognitions from thousands of years ago, and we have them, tells you how to build an enlightened city, what we're trying to do here at Mount Soma, to bring about that transformation. And that's what we're doing here at Mount Soma. And projections, we have all the plans, the architectural drawings from the South Indian Vedic architects, the Sthapatis, the Vastu experts that have those writings of Mamuni Mayan, translated them, and we have the drawings. This is what you need to build. And if you build this, and the pundits will know how to operate it, and when it becomes operational, all this is going to change. And that is what we're doing. That's what we're about. It's going to take a lot of money. Well, a lot of money. It's going to take $200 million, which is the price of one atomic bomb, I think. Probably the bomb costs way more than that, probably. I don't know. But I mean, it's just on a global scale, it just makes so much sense to just do it. And why don't people embrace it? I mean, there are billionaires out there. They could fund this and not even feel it. Why don't they? Paradigm identity. It doesn't make sense to their current paradigm that they're possessed by, really. But we're going to keep plugging away sometime out there, somewhere out there, they're going to hear us. And there is a principle. And I've talked about this before too. Positive attracts negative. And so as we build positivity here with Mount Soma, with the temple and stuff, it draws the Rakshasa value. It's called the negativity value, the component that obstructs the progress. And that obstruction works through the hearts and minds of people. So they hear about this, oh yeah, sure, oh no, oh, I can't believe it. All the projections that happen in the world. But we just keep moving forward. We keep plugging away in spite of the negativity, any kind of criticism, any kind of anything. It's all part of the process. Patience reaps rewards, steady hand on the rudder, and we will attain the goal. All right. Scott, Adrian, anything that you guys want to add? Any comments about all this?
So when you're talking about technologies, you're not talking about building a supercomputer that's going to solve all these problems. This is something that wells up through consciousness that then you use the things that are already existent in nature, like what you're talking about. Like
it's a really good point. I mean, especially these days, because when we think of tech, we think of big tech, and there's a lot of negativity around that now, I guess. But there are the technologies that I talked about that we already know of that involve, bacteria, viruses, all those different things that I talked about. But you're right, Adrian, that we're talking about a whole new kind of technology, a technology of the unified field, a technology that the Rishis cognized, the ancient seers, developed, thousands of years ago. And we're talking about re-enlivening those, and those are largely technologies of consciousness. Consciousness is the fundamental building block. It's actually pure consciousness is pure isness. It's the stuff, the thing. Pure consciousness is the one thing that the whole universe is created out of. But when consciousness interacts with itself, you see, on that transcendental level, technologies of consciousness reveal themselves that on this more superficial level of the technologies we developed from our current level of paradigm identity are unavailable, unknown, unbelievable, uneven acceptable. How could they do that? And so that's why this thing about ancient aliens even came into being. That TV show is so popular. Why? Because we can't believe that anybody ever really knew that. So it had to be some alien group from outer space. It's easier for people to accept that than to accept that in the ancient times people did it, even though there are structures all over the world. There's proof all over the world, really, that those technologies were available, and they no longer are. But by employing this major technology that we know about, thanks to Mamuni Mayan, and implement it, all these other technologies will fall into our laps. That's a good point, Adrian. It's an important point. We just need somebody with some money out there to hear us, and this whole thing would just take off, like a boom, Anything else? Scott, Adrian?
nothing for me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess that'll do it for now. So again, if anybody can help us out to get some of these volunteers here to help out with Mount Soma for a little while, you can reach out to us, michaelmamas.net. There's a way of contacting us, or shusameshra.org. There's a way of contacting us. Just go online and let us hear from you, and we will get back to you. All right. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will talk with you more again next week on Ancient Secrets Review.